Welcome to episode 2 of the AJHL playoff show. I'm Nathan Crosby from the Brooks Bandits, joined with Brandon Ewanchyshyn of the Spruce Grove Saints. Brandon, both our teams with buys through the first round of the playoffs. I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of time on hockey TV watching all the action. We had some great opening round series, even made it out to Canmore for game 6 there between the Eagles and the Dragons. Let's start in the South Division, and why not start with the Eagles and the Dragons, the longest series in the South Division in the first round. Went 6 games, but the Hellyer Dragons able to finish off Canmore with a 4-2 series win. The Dragons certainly struggled in the regular season against Canmore, only winning 1 game out of 6 in their head-to-heads with the Eagles. But they flipped the script in the playoffs and win the series. Just how impressed were you with Drumheller being able to get over that hurdle?
Yeah, resilient, I'd say for sure for the Drumheller Dragons. Their power play very good in the first round, operating at 21.1%. We maybe thought that one was going to go 7 games. It was very close to doing so, but like you said, Drumheller secured the series win with that overtime victory in game 6. Sam Samard, the hero. And you got to give a lot of credit as well to the Canmore Eagles, who, like you said, won the season series. They're a tenacious team who's not afraid to shy away from an opponent. And that's exactly what they did in the first round, taking Drum to 6, nearly 7. But at the end of the day, Drumheller prevails with that OT win in game 6.
Yeah, and some standout performances. I mean, Andre Proctor Ramirez wraps up his AJHL career. He was awesome in that series and earned a commitment to Division III Marion. So he heads off into some college hockey next season. How about Will Christian for the Dragons? 4 goals in the series. He led the team in goal scoring. So it's interesting, Drumheller come in as the 3rd seed in the South, probably a series that went a little longer than they wanted to, but they get the job done, and we'll see how they respond here in the second round. Let's move on now to another series in the South. Black Falls finishing 2nd in the division, taking on the Calgary Canucks, who were the 7th seed. Goals, lots of goals in this series. My goodness, Tyler Wallace, 7 goals he had in just 5 games as the Black Falls Bulldogs defeat Calgary 4-1. The Canucks do win game 4 at home in overtime, but Black Falls able to take care of it in 5. Brandon, what were your thoughts here on the Bulldogs' first ever playoff series win?
Yeah, first off, give the Canucks credit for pulling off 1 victory on home ice, but we all kind of knew that Black Falls would take that one. We just didn't know how long it was going to go. You mentioned the scoring. At the end of the day, the Bulldogs outscoring the Canucks 27-14. Lots of goals in that series. You talked about the Niagara commit and Tyler Wallace leading the charge. 10 points in the first round, which is unbelievable. 7 goals, 3 helpers. And then I also look at the goaltending of Black Falls. At some point, somebody had to start stopping some pucks, and Matthew Hennessy stood tall in the cage at 2.8 goals against, a .904 save percentage. And the Black Falls power play as well. Very impressive in the first round, operating at 23% going in to their matchup now against Drumheller.
Before we get to that matchup, though, we got to talk about the other series in the first round in the South Division, a quick series, which I don't think we predicted, Brandon. If you go back at episode 1, we thought that this might be one of the longer series in the first round, but that just wasn't the case as the Okotoks Oilers swept the Camrose Kodiaks in 4 games. How impressed were you with Okotoks? They were all tight games, low scoring, no blowouts, but clearly Okotoks, who did not end the regular season well, put that in the trash can and clearly came out refocused here in the playoffs.
Yeah, they get a little bit more healthy, and look what happens. They were down at times as well in multiple games and multiple times achieving comeback victories to sweep that series. Ty Yoder, Sam Huck, Dean Spack, unbelievable. They led the way for Okotoks. Those guys combined for 16 points in just 4 games. And Parker Saka, he was also very good in between the pipes. He only gave up 2 goals per game, which helped propel the Oilers to that series win. And he finished the series with a .922 save percentage. And you said it off the top. We weren't maybe expecting a sweep, but let's give the Okotoks Oilers a lot of credit here for being resilient, coming back in 2 games from multiple goal deficits and able to sweep that one against Camrose. And now we'll see how they fare against the mighty Brooks Bandits.
10 different Okotoks Oilers scored at least a goal in that 4-game series. So Okotoks is off to the second round. Camrose has their series or their season come to an end. Speaking of Okotoks, our friend Tyler King was able to catch up with Connor Hellyer.
So, Connor, thinking back to that Camrose series, what did this team learn in that 4-game sweep?
Yeah, I think it was good for us. Obviously, we learned how to play those 2-1 games, those tight games. Playoff hockey is a bit different. It's a bit rougher. It's a bit tighter of a game. And, I think for us to come out on top and have those comeback wins really gave us confidence in those closer games coming up, probably against Brooks here.
What was the biggest key to getting those comebacks in the first place? I mean, you're down 3-1 in one of them. What did this team do or change that allowed it to charge back in those?
Yeah, I think a big thing for us was just staying level-headed. Whether they score or we score, we want to have our emotions the same. And I think in playoff hockey, the game's never over until the final buzzer. So I think we're excited to see how this next round goes, and just kind of leave what we did in Camrose into Brooks.
It's obvious that Brooks is a very different opponent from Camrose. How does it change your guys' approach as a team?
Yeah, I think we just have to play a tighter D zone. Obviously, if they can score if you give them chances. So, we've been working a lot on just playing a tight game, and I think that will lead us into success for the second round.
They had the advantage in the regular season series, but you guys rarely had a full roster, and there were good moments in games against Brooks. What's this team doing when it's at its best against Brooks? The kind of habits you're going to want to see for 60 minutes in this series.
Yeah, I think we're focusing on the D zone a lot when we're playing good, and staying out of the box is a big key against this team. Obviously, they have a good power play and put the puck in the back of the net. So, like you said, we haven't had a full lineup, I don't think, in any of those 6 games in the regular season. So we're pretty excited going into these few games.
Last thing for you, it's loud building up there in Brooks. How do you guys feed off the atmosphere there, even when it's not a friendly one?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a different atmosphere to play in. Obviously, I think it's probably one of the more hostile environments to play in the AJ. But I think everyone feels off it. It really gets you in the game, and I think we're excited to play there.
Our thanks to Tyler King of the Okotoks Oilers for chatting with Connor Hellyer. The Okotoks Oilers will take on the Brooks Bandits in the South Division semifinal. It's the 9th all-time meeting between these two teams in the playoffs, and it's the 5th straight year they've met in the postseason, but a little different this year, Brandon. It's not in the South final. It's in the South semifinal. Brooks had the bye and swept Okotoks in the 6-game season series, but pretty close games. The largest margin of victory was 4 on February 10th. Ethan Barwick had the shutout that night. And I really think he was the difference this year between Brooks and the Oilers. What do you make of this series here between these two rivals?
Well, first off, it's going to be a great series. The fans are going to be buzzing in both cities. Brooks hasn't played a game in nearly 20 days, so I'm sure the Brooks faithful is eager to get out and support their team. And for Okotoks, every time they battle the Bandits, the town comes out and supports. So first off, I think it's going to be awesome atmosphere-wise. And then looking onto the ice, you mentioned it. Most of the games were within 2 goals. There was a couple outliers, but the season series overall was pretty close. You talked about the goaltending, and that's a big part of it as well. Parker Soccer was very good in the first round, only giving up 2 goals per game, and Ethan Barwick had one heck of a regular season. And you also said that he had a big factor to do with the 6-0 season series sweep that Brooks pulled off against Okotoks, so we'll see how the goaltending matchup plays into a factor. The Brooks PK outstanding this year against Okotoks, operating at 100%. They did not give up a power play goal against the Oilers all regular season. And then lastly, I look at the coaches. 2 veteran coaches who have went against each other so many times. Tyler Dice for Okotoks and Ryan Papuano for Brooks. What kind of tricks do they have up their sleeves? What kind of systems are they going to try run, or plays that they're going to try run to get the little advantage against the other side? Overall, I think it's going to be a wicked series, and I can't wait for it to get going here in just a couple days' time.
Both Papuano and Dice were finalists for Coach of the Year award as well. You look at the goal scoring in this season series, Brooks outscored Okotoks 27-11. So the Oilers will need to start generating a little bit more offense than they did in the regular season. But this is also an Okotoks team that has a lot more confidence right now, sweeping Camrose in the first round. Bandits haven't played since March 5th in Olds, but these veteran Bandits that were here last year know about this long break, and it's the same with Spruce Grove. The bye is longer now in the first round. We'll see the whole rust versus rest, how that plays in. What will be an interesting second round series between Brooks and Okotoks. Okay, we got to talk about the other South semifinal before we go, and that's Blackfalds versus Drum Hellyer. First ever playoff meeting between these two since the Bulldogs came to Blackfalds. And I look at this season series, Brandon, it is tight. Each team winning 3 games against the other. And you look at goal scoring, it was even. 21 goals scored by Blackfalds, 21 by Hellyer. This is I think, a coin flip of a series. You're going to see scoring, and I think it comes down to between Hennessy and Fuller who can continue their strong play.
Yeah, Garrett Fuller, impressive as well in the first round. So was Matthew Hennessy. Does this one go 7? I'm not sure. Everything on paper suggests a lengthy series. You talked about the season series. Blackfalds 3-2, 0-1. Hellyer 3-2, 1-0. So it doesn't get any closer than that. An overtime win and a shootout win, the only difference in the season series. The Blackfalds power play was very good against Hellyer this regular season, 23.3% overall. They were also good in the first round. Could that be a tool that Blackfalds continues to use here in the postseason? But this one, at the end of the day, just comes down to good old-fashioned hockey. 2 teams that are very evenly matched, from the forwards to the D to the goalie to the coaches. Both rinks, are going to be bumping. And I think this one might go the distance, at least 6 or 7. And I'm sure you and I will be tuned in very closely later on during this series, because it's going to be a darn good one to watch for everybody across the league.
Looking forward to the South Division semifinals, which begin Friday, March 24th. Game 1 is in Brooks, and game 1 between the Blackfalds Bulldogs and Hellyer Dragons will be played at the Eagle Builders Center. That's going to do it for episode 2 of the AJHL Playoff Show South Division preview. For Brandon Ewanchyshyn, I'm Nathan Crosby.